Today we have Simon back. We've missed you so much, Simon, and we're so happy you're back with us.
Thank you.
We've missed your dynamic with us. Today we're going to be talking about, again, dissatisfaction. It's a good thing, and how that helps us grow and move beyond the dissatisfaction. Simon and Juliane have each have a lovely story to share with you about some of the dissatisfaction that's gone on in their life that has been kind of the sand in the oyster, they call it, to cause them to shift, to cause them to do some different things in their life and move to a new, different, better place. And it all ties together with, you probably know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you don't, we'll share a little bit with you today too. We have a little bit of a screenshot that we'll put up for you so you can see what we're talking about. And also changing your vibration, why that's so important. So we're going to start with Simon today. And he has a little bit of a lovely story to share. We're going to take him back quite a few years and to share with you where some of this dissatisfaction started for him and what he did to cause that to shift to a better place. Over to you, Simon.
Great, thanks for the introduction, Lorrie. So, yeah, back in primary school, I was very happy most of the time, and I had a lot of different friends, and it was a very safe environment, I would say, because it was quite a small primary school. It was just down the road from where I was living. But then, as happens with many people, I would say, when they go to the much bigger secondary school or high school, things can take a turn, not always for the better, and it's quite intimidating, I would say, going to a much bigger school, being around many more kids, hundreds more kids, and then there's all the pressure because things are starting to move towards important exams and then university potentially and jobs, etc. And I became quite dissatisfied in that secondary school environment, which was an all-boys school, which was probably one of the reasons for that. Because when I was in primary school and it was a safe environment, it didn't really matter so much that I was always a fairly quiet child. I definitely wasn't one of the loudest. I didn't want to be up on the stage in plays and that kind of thing. But when we got to secondary school, there was much more emphasis on presentations, and you were pushed to do those kind of things. And it was a very competitive environment as well. And I felt like you were kind of being pushed towards you were expected to be an extrovert. So you were expected to always be answering questions in class, doing presentations, put on the spot quite often by teachers, which for someone who's a bit more quiet, you'd then get labelled as shy, and then you kind of got into that mindset that is who you are, a shy person. But as I've got older, I've realised that there's extroverts and then there's introverts, and then somewhere in the middle there's ambiverts, which I think I might be erring towards. I think that's probably fits my personality, which is somebody that's not going to be on the stage all the time, not going to be the loudest person in the group, but also isn't going to be someone who's holds back and never speaks. I'm somewhere in the middle of those two. But then again, there's nothing wrong with being that person who's really quiet either, which I read up a lot on in this excellent book. I don't know if you can see this, called Quiet. The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. It's an excellent book. I 100% recommend this if you have any kind of doubts about your own personality, because it teaches you to embrace who you are, whether you are extrovert or introvert, and realize you don't have to fit into the box that society expects, which I think especially now with social media and celebrity culture, that we all have to be extroverts and always loud and the life of the party all the time. You don't. You can be a person that enjoys reading books and just keeping to yourself and maybe having a few friends, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to have hundreds of friends, because most people don't anyway. This idea that you've got hundreds of friends like on Facebook, in reality, it's not true. most people have a small group of friends, but because of the society we live in now, we feel this pressure to always be popular and have loads of friends, when in fact it can be good for an introvert to have a small group of tightly knit friends, a friend group that's tightly knit, very supportive of each other. So yeah, I think the end to my dissatisfaction really came from embracing who I am and realizing I don't have to be this super extrovert, loud person and going to loud parties all the time and that kind of thing, which I tried to fit into before. But I'm quite happy being with a small group of people or on my own. I enjoy my own company as well, and I think that comes from learning to love yourself as well. Yeah, so that's kind of my dissatisfaction story and my journey out of that. And I'll pass it back to Lorrie, and then she's going to introduce Juliane, I think.
I have a question for you. During that period of time, did you have, being shy like that and being in the all boys private school, did you have any issues of bullying with being kind of that shy introvert sort of person?
Yeah, I think if you were more, let's say, sensitive character like myself, there's definitely certain individuals who would kind of try and, it was because they were suffering themselves. I've really realized this about bullies. It's when a bully is suffering themselves, they want to make themselves feel better by trying to put somebody else down. So I don't hold any grudges about that, because that whole school environment for me was quite toxic. It was a very competitive, masculine environment. So yeah, there was definitely bullying. I was bullied to a certain degree. Other people got it much worse, unfortunately. Yeah, so that, and I, there was a certain mentality amongst some of the leadership at that time when I was there, and certain teachers, that, oh, boys will be boys, and that strengthens you, and just man up, and that whole bullshit. To be honest, if someone's being mean to you, just man up and forget about it. You'll get over it. When I've gotten over it personally, but that's only through going inward and looking at certain traumas that I went through. But other people, they take years or even decades to get over these kind of things. So that's another issue that really needs to be looked at, bullying in schools, because it's getting worse and worse from what I've been reading as well.
Absolutely. And Juliane is working in this area in a really unique way, helping some children through that. So there were several things that were actually kind of a dissatisfaction for you, it sounds like. It was kind of multi-layered. And that's where the Maslow's hierarchy of needs come in. That you were in the level of, thank you, yay! We're getting so fancy, I love this, you're amazing. So this is the Maslow's 8 hierarchy of needs. A lot of people know it as 5, though in the 60s to 70s, as Maslow continued his studies, he realized there were actually a different hierarchy of needs. And that's where we look at this. Simon, what you were talking about was actually in the belongingness and love. And that is friendships, intimate relationships, trust and acceptance, receiving and giving affection and love, affiliating, being part of a group, family, friends, work. So that's the psychological part. There's actually 3 different groupings that you'll see, and these handouts will have available at the bottom of the replay when we have it complete for you. So that was the area that you were sort of stuck in. You were kind of with the bullying going on, the shyness, with the belonging, but yet actually still you were okay with being more key to yourself, but you were not quite fitting in either, and that caused the search. That caused the satisfaction of you searching of how do I how do I become different to where I really want to go in my life, and how do I do these things to shift myself there? Your search, which caused your look at you now.
Well,
Look at you, you're doing free stream. You know, we're live on Facebook and live on YouTube, and I forget where else you said. Is it Periscope?
Periscope as well, yeah.
Here we are live streaming. And you were this really, really shy person. You sought, what do I need to do to shift to a different, better place? And this is where Maslow's hierarchy of needs, people need to understand so many different things that are going on when we have dissatisfaction. It's from the psychological hierarchy of needs. It's from parents, as you said, as you were talking, you just kind of habit, became this very shy, and with the bullying, you became more introverted, and it was repetition.
Just to interlude quickly, that the book really teaches you that being shy isn't the same as being introvert. You can be an introvert and very confident, but you're confident in your own abilities and you're happy with who you are. It doesn't. Shyness is something separate, in fact, where you're too scared to talk up. And I think, we need to get away from this idea that introverts is a negative thing, because being shy isn't particularly a good thing, because it can hold you back in many ways. But being an introvert shouldn't hold you back at all, and it doesn't have to, because there's many introverts actually working very high up in companies and other things, even leadership roles, because they have lots of other qualities.
And then there's the ambivert. This is a topic, the introvert, extrovert, ambivert. This is a topic we're going to go deeper dive into another 30-minute mastermind. We realized, three of us, through all this and input coming from different people, this is a really important topic, but we wanted to touch on it today to get that understanding started of this particular area, how important it is to understand this better, different. And interesting, all three of us we pretty well fall into this ambivert, that we were introvert, and whatever reason in our life, we sought, how do we become more extrovert to achieve the thing that we wanted to achieve. And so all three of us really fall into the ambivert. From all of our talking and chatting together, these are things we learn about each other. So that brief introduction to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this will be available for you down in the chat underneath the replay for you. And we also have the vibration, the higher expansion vibration. And this is what we were talking about just briefly, that shifting your vibration is one of the first things you need to start thinking about working on, because you explained to me in sharing your story before, Simon, and we'll get into that as well with Juliane, that was one of the first things that and for me, anytime that I'm needing to make a shift in something, you have to understand that it's where you're at in your vibration around that particular thing. So this is another handout that we'll have available for you in the chat down below on the replay. So if you're feeling in the lower end of the vibration, you're contracting. You can see the little guy at the bottom there. You're actually in a contraction mode. And the higher you're shifting your vibration, you can see the people at the top, they're in just absolute expansion. Woo! You, Juliane and Simon and I doing this all the time. Woo! And it just lifts you. So do that at home. You're watching this, just woo, and it just immediately changes wherever you're at.
Yeah.
And I usually, when I'm doing a live in-person session, I have people just stand up for a minute. It just changes your vibration. So, so Juliane, let's switch over to sharing your story, because 30 minutes goes so fast trying to talk through all of these so important concepts. That's why we introduce them, and we are going to be breaking some of these down into deeper dives into the future. And there's some of what Juliane is going to share with you today that will be on into the future as another topic. So can you share with us, John, what was dissatisfaction that was going on in your life in this particular story that you're going to share? And what were some of the things that you did, and how did you shift that?
Well, dissatisfaction. I had a moment in my life. It was years ago. It was around 2010 when I started feeling that something was shifting somehow. I didn't know what it was, but there was something in the air. Something was changing, and then in 2011, my father got diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. So that was in the early stages at that time, and that caused me living. Well, I lived on Tenerife, on the Canary Islands, and my family, my parents lived in Germany at that time, and only came out to see and visit me here on the island. So that was a moment where I was totally overwhelmed with a situation that I didn't know how I was going to cope in the future. So there was so much dissatisfaction going on for a long period of time, and I just didn't have the understanding of what was going on with me. And I knew that I wanted to help um, my parents, my mom, most of all, because she was gonna be the caregiver for my dad. And I made the decision to not go back to Germany to support my mom at that time. I decided to stay on the island because I created my whole life on the island, and I love it here. So I said, okay, well, I have to find a way. And I was dissatisfied with the situation, but in the end, dissatisfaction, I think, is such a creative state as well, and it causes in you something that you want to draw out. You just don't know how. So there's so much not knowing, so much ignorance going on underneath that needs some light, that needs some knowledge to get the mind clear to what you need to know. So I did more and more research on, first of all, on mindsets, and how to help, and self-help books and material. And I came across several books, and one of them being also The Secret, which was talking a lot about the law of attraction in the first place. So the law of attraction, many people know it, but that is actually, I learned that much later, that the law of attraction is actually the secondary law. And the first law, the primary law, is the law of vibration, and that is much, much more important to attract the right vibe and the right circumstances that we want to attract. So that was a moment of time in my life where it all started with me diving deeper into studying, and ultimately became also my line of work. So yes.
So there was, again, a lot of moving parts. There were a lot of different layers of things that were going for you. And that was sort of the triggering moment of learning about your father's dementia and how do I deal with, how do I help my mother and not move back to Germany, how to stay where I love and still support my mother and help my dad how I can and do that from a distance. And that sort of knowing and understanding a lot of your journey, that sort of started unearthing some of these other things that were much deeper, dissatisfaction that was starting to well up.
Yes.
And it was at the same time you chose to leave your corporate job and start your own consulting and mentoring.
Yes.
And tutoring. You started your own business at the same time.
I had some great mentorship throughout the whole time, which was you in that case, you and your husband James. You've been there supporting all along, and honestly, I'm grateful until this very day.
Oh, Juliane, thank you.
Yeah, it's been a journey. And
it has been a fabulous journey together, for sure. It has been amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing, lovely, lovely. And look where we are now today, meeting. Look what we're doing today. Never, ever would have.
Coming in.
When you and I met and we were talking about the journey where you were at with your mom and your dad, you were still in corporate at that time, and that wasn't even on the table. That wasn't even something you were talking or thinking about, but that was very quickly started raising to the surface. I remember it started raising to the surface about leaving where you were currently working and making that shift, and that was creating, there were so many different things, so many different layers and levels of things that were happening, kind of just all surfacing at once for you.
Yes, it was. It was at that time the situation at home with the parents, but then I think this huge goal or project that started evolving. First of all, in my mind, and then it came more and more, to the surface. I think that also was the driving force to really go for it and help, and although there were many people maybe ridiculing it, I sticked to it, and I had great people like yourself and our friends who supported that kind of mindset.
And Simon.
I think this is amazing, and it's important to look for people who can actually support you with your dreams and with your ambitions, and who are not trying to talk it out or ridicule or just because
that's a really
they're talking from their own paradigms and own inner thinking, own disbeliefs, so which does not need to be yours.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important when you do start creating these goals that this dissatisfaction is surfacing, and start looking at what is it that I really want to do different, better in my life. And that consciously or subconsciously, you're actually setting new, bigger goals for yourself. Some people don't think of it in those terms if they're making a shift out of dissatisfaction to different, better. They don't think of it as, oh, I sat down and I wrote out this goal and this big story of my life. Some people just move through the process and they don't think of it in those terms. As you're doing that, you must seek out people who are in harmony with where your growth is. Because one of the things that happens is as we're shifting through the different layers of hierarchy of needs, basically. As we're shifting, others are not interested in that kind of growth for themselves. And they are unconsciously, subconsciously, their own paradigm, as you were saying, Juliane, their own paradigm in your way. It's butting up because your paradigm is shifting, theirs is not. So you have to understand, if it feels like someone is batting up at you, or someone is trying to sabotage you, or someone is just giving you a really hard time about, you have this big goal you want to go to, you must seek out people who are in this bigger growth and work with them, and people who maybe have been there, people who have been there, because they need these hurdles to get through. And you have to understand, people that are bumping up against you, it's just their own paradigm. They're not purposely doing this. It will feel horrible. It'll feel like, oh, why are they doing this? Why do you not want me to do? Why are you behaving like this with me? Your paradigm is shifting. Theirs is not. And when that starts happening, it starts creating havoc in us, not just internally, externally around you. As you're shifting to a different place, they're not. And it is changing that paradigm that they don't know how to behave with you anymore, and they want you back. They know how to behave. They know how to do the dance with you that's been going on. But when you start shifting, you're doing your own dance, and they're not wanting to go there. They want you to come. So that it's so multi-layered. It isn't just a paradigm. It isn't just a fear barrier. It isn't just what vibration you're in. It isn't just a Maslow's. It is so multifaceted. The things that are going on as you are hitting these dissatisfaction points in your life. And as soon as you start understanding, why is this dissatisfaction? As soon as you can understand, why is this other person behaving like this to me? As soon as you can understand these different multifacets going on, and you have got to go in. It's not about them, it's about you and what you want to do and where you want to go. And you've got to move forward. That means changing who you have as mentors, changing who you're talking to about these things. You have got to do changing, not them. You're not in this to change someone else. You're in this to help others to a better. And if you look at the very top, Juliane, that was where you were bouncing. The very top two are the self-actualization needs and the transcendence needs. And you have been bouncing around those two, wanting to help others for such a long time. Long time ago, I remember you were a teacher. You were, help me with the full.
Yes, well, with
aerobics teacher. You were aerobics teacher. You were,
yeah.
And you were always helping people in different ways. And this was really coming out. This was really, really pouring out of you as we started through this journey.
But what I wanted to say as well is, if you look at the hierarchy of needs, it's okay to bounce. Because
yes, we all do. We all do.
In like when life-changing events happen, like we are currently in this
Yes.
situation, which is a global situation. Even people who normally under normal or what was the old normal circumstances would behave in a certain way and have already achieved a certain level, they also happen to bounce back. But then it's important to keep the attitude right, to stay positive, and to know with faith, something that you normally cannot really see or touch, and that's why it's so hard to believe in it. But once you've done that already, and you've gone up that pyramid, then you know how it works. You've been there, done that. So
Yes.
it's just getting the plane on a safe track again.
Yes.
That's what
And
it is.
and talking about what you were just talking about, in a few weeks back, we were talking about dissatisfaction is a good thing in around specific relationships, and the story that I shared of things that happened in my life. I was bouncing up and down this pyramid. I was bouncing from, near the top of it to boom. I was back to my basic needs again, and recreating those again. But once you do this, once you gain the confidence, self-confidence that I can do this, I can do this myself. I don't need anybody else to inform me. I'm the one who can make this happen. And finding those right formulas for you, and different for everybody, because we all come from a completely different paradigm. As much as we have in common, Simon from UK, I'm from America, Juliane from Germany, as much as we have different cultures we've come from, we have, how do you say that, Juliane? We're more alike than different?
Yeah,
How do you
we're
word that?
much more alike than we are different.
Absolutely. And at the same time, there are so many things that are so different about us because of who we have become from very young lives and all of our experiences. I've lived in the UK, I've lived in America, I've lived in Colorado and California, Michigan. I've lived here in Canary Islands in Spain. Simon has shared different places he's lived and worked. I've worked with people from around the world, which again, that expands your thinking of different cultures and people are people everywhere. I mean, we're three different countries right here. and, so
You're shaped by the people that you meet in your life, don't you? People come and go in your life.
absolutely,
You're really shaped by them, and your personality or character can adapt and change
absolutely.
depending on who you come into contact with.
It's part of everyone that you come in contact with, and that's who you become.
And a lot of people, some people are going to be just there for a short lesson, and other people might be there for a very long friendship or relationship. But ultimately, everybody that you come into contact has you could say, a purpose in your life.
A reason, a season, a lifetime. Reason, a season, a lifetime.
Mm-mm.
How it goes.
Yeah, short term, long term.
Yeah, short term, medium term, long term. Yeah, but everything going on in your life is for learning and growing and becoming a different, better me today than I was yesterday. And for me to be a different, better version of myself tomorrow. When I wake up and I start tomorrow, it's to be a better person in this world for those that I have in my life, in my sphere.
Yes, and what I wanted to say as well is that dissatisfaction is actually something we shouldn't set the same to happiness or unhappiness.
Exactly. Yes.
It
Mm.
has nothing
Grateful,
to do with it.
absolutely grateful for whatever is going on, even if it's really horrible, because
Yes, I
you're
can be.
learning and growing from it.
I can
Yeah.
be very happy with something, but at the same time, I feel underneath the drive
Yep.
to be better, but that's normal because we are
Yep.
creative beings and we want to be more, not for materialistic things, but it's just our nature. And we have to
Absolutely.
learn how to trust a little bit more in the natural process. And I think this is what we're gonna be talking about more in
Rolling
further
forward
sessions.
more. Absolutely. We're just about out of time here. 30 minutes just goes whoosh. So we're going to have both handouts available for you in underneath the replay for today.
I'll put the link to the book as well, because Carlos is interested.
Carlos, hi Carlos, how are you in Port Huron? Port Huron, Michigan's on live with us. Woohoo!
Carlos!
And Tasha, Juliane, one of our dear friends, is going to come on live YouTube today. Hi, Tasha.
Okay. Hi, Tasha.
See you soon. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be sharing and deep diving a bit more into what Simon was talking about, the introvert, extrovert, ambivert. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into that and how all of this connects with that. We just touched the surface of so much of this, how all these layers and how it all fits together. And Julie mentioned a little bit in your story that you shared. Thank you, Carlos. We love you. Miss you. So, Juliane, you're going to be talking a little bit more in depth about some of the things you're teaching. Do you want to just say one brief bit about that? About the language tutor and how all that fits together?
Was touching it, or what he was starting to talk about it in the beginning, the bullying at school, or how to fit in, how to be more a good player actually than an enemy. So that's what I'm focusing on, helping children and parents at the same time understand themselves a little bit better, and from that understanding then the ripple effects, understanding maybe certain negative things going on the outside, but strengthening and empowering yourself enough to not let it affect you so much.
And the most fascinating part of all of this is Juliane is a language tutor. She teaches German, English, and Spanish. And she does this through teaching language. She's teaching them language and teaching them how to get past this dissatisfaction going on in their life and building confidence. So it's just amazing where she's taken all of this and how she's helping all these young people pass some tough times in their life.
Super necessary in today's world as well, because it's getting worse. So it's amazing that there's people like you, Juliane, trying to help with the situation.
Yeah. You can either be bitter or better. You know?
There you go. I love that. You can either be bitter or you can be better. I choose better.
Oh,
we're at our 30 minutes, guys. Yeah. It's 7th week. Is that right, Simon?
Yes. And a big shout out and a big thank you to everybody that's been tuning in every week. It's really awesome. We appreciate all the comments and the shares and all of that kind of thing. It's really great to have such a cool audience.
Yeah, we love sharing. All three of us just love sharing and helping others through our stories and through our learning and growing.
So don't hesitate to just chat with us. We're happy to help and share more with you.
We're all in the 30-Minute Mastermind Facebook group all the time. So if you want to leave us any comments or messages in there, we're all three in and out of there quite often. So leave a message, say hi, give us a thumbs up. Just let us know you've been there. And we will see you next week, Friday, on 30-Minute Mastermind.
Yes.
Have a fabulous week.
Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.